And there's Victoria.
And Victoria.
Michelle, where are you from, please? Michelle Lee? Michelle Lee, your audio is off. Hi, Trista, where? I don't know.
Oh, I'm from Toronto. I'm on Vanya's board.
Oh, fantastic. And Michelle? Can't hear her. Michelle, your audio is off. Do you want to do the video as well? Wendy, I think you should do the video just for a moment.
Oh, okay. Hang on a second. Let me find it on my phone.
Should be on the, oh, on the phone, not a computer.
Yeah.
We like to see each other, right?
I know. Let me figure it out. I don't know. My phone's doing weird
All right,
things.
at some point we will. So it is my pleasure to introduce to you today the presenter for our session, Vanya Sakalaris. And her bio is so long. And I thought, what would I say about Vanya? Because she is so accomplished. And so I picked out the areas that I thought would be of value to all of us, and why the theme of find and follow your North Star today is so important. You know, she is definitely, she has extensive experience in a number of service industries, including healthcare, financial, and education. So a really broad spectrum of all the things that she does. She is a seasoned, a very seasoned executive coach, and she shares her extensive experience both as a public speaker, as well as an adjunct university lecturer and a case writer, with a focus on strategy, leadership, and entrepreneurship, blending all three together. She provides business coaching in collaboration with various Canadian universities, including the Ivey School of Business, the University of Toronto, and the Sauder School of Business at UBC. And I can share with you from my own personal experience with the Sauder School of Business that she's highly regarded in this institution, and is so valuable that they fly her out to do lectures. She holds an MBA from the Ivey Business School. She's a graduate of Rotman's Executive Leadership Program, which is very prestigious, and both for not-for-profit governance program, and she's a certified executive coach. Has also been certified as a health executive by the Canadian College of Health Leaders. So her focus on health, I think, was what attracted me to this very topic, because of the healthcare system and everything that people are dealing with in that area. So the topic today is on, and I like the topic, and I don't know if the
Motivation.
Title does her justice, find and follow your North Star. And it really is the importance of motivation in our daily lives. How do we increase our motivation, which is so low right now for a lot of people? You know, there's Wendy saying, do I start my business, and do I really go for it? What do I need? How can I be positively impacted by motivation, and focusing on things that are within our control and not outside our control? So I'm so looking forward to Vanya's presentation today. And I just also want to say that one of the things, for those of you that are new to this webinar, Michelle, I don't know who you are, and Sabrina, Sabrina, of course I know you, you're in Crystal's group. But please spread the word that we are doing trial, free 1 hour trial advisory boards. And Victoria doesn't know this yet, but I think we hooked both Victoria and Vanya into doing two 1 hour trials in June. And I think that's really important that right now we have Marg and Marla, and we want to make sure that other chairs have the opportunity. Susie's saying it to you as well. Hi, Lena. What is that? I can't see. Okay. So having said that, we are going to have the chat box going all through the session. So for 50 minutes, we are going to have Vanya provide her presentation. Alicia will keep track of the questions that come up. So as soon as you have a question, chat it in, and we'll try to address many of them towards the end. But again, thank you. I guess I should have introduced myself to those who may not know me. I don't know who Lena is, and I don't know who Michelle is. I'm Barbara Mowat. I'm the founder and president of GroYourBiz. And we have Mark Hatchie, who is our wonderful managing director for Ontario and Eastern Canada. And we have Susie Graff, one of the chairs for Aurora and Vaughan, and Victoria Eastwood, who is Toronto 4. So welcome to everyone. And over to you, Vanya.
And thank you, Barbara, so much. And Lena is a classmate from Ivy, and also a very successful entrepreneur in the social media and influencer space. So thank you, Lena, for joining us. And thank you all for taking time for yourselves. I think that this is a wonderful opportunity that Barbara has made available through Grow Your Biz. And I'm a big believer in investing in selves, and this is what better way to do so. So I will now, in my technical prowess, endeavor to share my screen with everyone, and go through a few things. So let's see if my computer cooperates. So far it's not. There we go. So a few things. So here's what I did to frame my thinking in terms of what I thought would be helpful to share with you all today. I'd like you to walk away with reinforcement about the importance of motivation in our daily lives. Sure, we all know about it, we hear about it, but how much do we actually harness it and use it as an anchor and as a bit of a guide as we navigate stormy waters like we are experiencing today? I'm going to bring a bit of art and science to the discussion and leverage a model, a framework that I use in my coaching work, and it was developed by some brain science research and by some founders in Denmark. It's a hierarchy of motivation, and I'll orient you to that model and how to use it. My hope through this hour is that I help you to increase your motivation capability. As I said, it's there for the taking, and when we mobilize it and catalyze it, it's of great service to us. And I'll end by a bit of putting together the key between motivation and helping to manage change and personal development. And I'll tell you again why I picked this topic for today, and you can see hopefully why it's coming together. So here it is. Why this topic? Why now? As we entered into the world of pandemic, there was a huge surge, as you're all aware, of a great desire and system level support that came to the surface in terms of women helping women, entrepreneurs helping entrepreneurs. And we saw organizations such as Grow Your Biz come to the rescue, as well as our strategic sponsor, BMO, as well as all levels of government to help us respond to a system need in crisis. And when the invitation came from Barbara to all the chairs to, ask us if we had topics that we could possibly share with the field during this time of great need, as there was a plethora of a lot of system and business supports coming available, I thought I'd take the track of let's help the leader. Let me find ways to help the leader who's navigating this storm, and look at meaningful ways to help them help their business and help their teams. Hence the genesis of the discussion today. So you heard about Barbara did a wonderful synopsis of a bit of my backdrop, but when I synthesize it into very simple terms, when I do work with students and some of my mentorship and coaching work, the way I like to describe my path to entrepreneurship and why anybody can really, it doesn't preclude anyone from becoming an entrepreneur, because 20-year-old me would not have known I'd be doing what I'm doing today. So I started with a passion for seniors. So passion is a key driver in helping to define who we are, what we do, and why we do it. And it was a passion for seniors that led me to the service industry. And in that capacity, I spent 10 years, I define it, wearing the shoe. I was a healthcare administrator. I ran nursing homes because of my passion, not knowing that it was going to end that way. And I found myself leading large teams and baptism by fire. But in that capacity, I started to collect the key nuggets of entrepreneurship. I learned the pains of startup. I learned the pains of organizational development, what it meant to lead a team effectively. And I became very good at pitching as a not-for-profit leader, looking for funds to meet the many needs in my home. Pitching became the name of the game for 10 years. When we switched gears, I moved then to a health system role, and I was invited to the Regional Health Authority, and I became a planner. I moved from 150 seniors to 150,000 seniors as my planning population. And as I progressed in the planning journey, I found myself planning programs and services in healthcare for 2.5 million people in the city of Toronto. So I went from a pitcher to a funder. And as a funder, I received hundreds and hundreds of pitches, and I got really good at screening pitches. For every $25 million of funding that I had to allocate, I had over $250 million of applications for those funds. So looking for criteria and looking at how to strategically align content of proposals became the name of my game for 10 years. And I consider myself an investor at the time of stocks and bonds in healthcare. It was my job to use Ontario taxpayer dollars to develop the biggest ROI for taxpayer dollars and ensure value for money. So I say that I became 10 years as a shoemaker, and because I knew how the shoe fit, having worn it before, and it made me more effective in what I did. So along the way, I had the role of also developing my teams and coaching my teams. I had young leaders, small walks of life, and all disciplines in healthcare working with me. And we all brought a gift to the table to help meet the needs of our patients and our residents. And so I grew my talent and formally became a coach in that capacity. And then after 25 years, I took all of the learning and thought it was time to start my own business with a passion again of wanting to share the wealth. I had the benefit of a leadership journey, which was painful at times, but very informative. But I thought it was it'd be more rewarding to go back to what it was that drew me to healthcare service. And I desired to develop a company with 3 areas of focus. I wanted to continue to advise based on my lessons learned and advise organizations, leaders, and boards on how to help find their way forward. My business is also focused on leadership development. And so I do a lot of custom training, again, to help leaders and boards and their teams and to support students who are starting on their way. And I also have a coaching arm, and I do executive coaching, business coaching, but again, to help people find their way forward and help them get unstuck. So while I'm trained to really quickly identify issues that my clients are dealing with, to help mobilize their solutions and to help influence their efforts, I use a lot of frameworks and tools developed through business and science. But a key to success in my work is really getting at the core of who they are and what motivates them, what makes them tick. And that provides a lot of insight as to what it is that's going to turn their needle, where they're stuck, and how do I help them recalibrate their needle. And so motivator is a hidden gem, and hence my desire to share that with you. I thinking I need to develop a body of knowledge of how effective it's been in the work that I've done. But it goes without saying. There is a reason why I'm a big believer that a leader needs to help themselves before they help others. And I reinforce this in my work with clients. There is a reason why when we get on planes, or when we once upon a time got on planes, that the stewardess would say, put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you can help others. We're no good to anyone when we're not functioning at our optimal self. And it goes without saying that when stress weighs in, it really impacts motivation, satisfaction, fulfillment, performance. It's a key to life balance. I often remind my clients, and I encourage all of you to remember that work does not define us. And though right now we're in a period where the uncertainty of work is getting a lot of our attention, time, and energy, it's one element of our life. But what motivates us in work is also a motivator that shows up in our family and friend portion of our life, our health portion of our life, our personal living and relationships. And so again, secret key or secret ingredient in all aspects of what makes a better outcome. So as we faced COVID head on, and when there was no hope to be found anywhere, and the stormy seas started to rage around us, and there were a lot of unknowns, I quickly found that the one way I could mobilize the groups that I worked with was to anchor on some hope and some motivation. That's all we really had. If we think back to early March, we had nothing in terms of certainty, nothing in terms of facts, nothing in terms of models to predict where this was going. But we had hope and we had motivation, and being able to start our journey of thinking, planning, and surviving there is where I started. I mobilized efforts to really encourage others to follow suit in this type of framework of thinking. And by helping, again, themselves, they could help those around them and their families, and help their teams who are dealing with equal level of stress and uncertainty. We have an opportunity to use motivation as our compass to help identify our North Star. We all have a true north, which is aligned with our personal values, and it really reflects what makes us tick, our raison d'etre, as the French would say. Our North Star reflects who we are and what we stand for, and what we contribute in terms of our unique value offerings personally, and also as leaders and entrepreneurs professionally. In business, a North Star represents what we know, the company mission, the why do they exist? What do they bring unique to, what unique offerings do they bring to their clients? And it crystallizes the objectives of a company. And so as a leader, more likely than not, the business you've developed aligns with that North Star. And in some way, shape, or form, it brings to life an element of your unique offerings and reflects your values and your strengths as a unique leader. An ideal match is made when the clients who you attract are aligned with similar values, similar interests, and who identify the value and what it is that you're bringing to the table. So as a coach in the coaching part of my business, myself and my colleagues use a number of assessment tools to help us understand provide a better context for our discussions and understanding of our clients, what they're dealing with, who they are, and what they bring to the table. And while I have used a number of personality-based tools over the years, I was most pleased to trip over this one in this work that I do with the Ivy School of Business, together with Victoria, my colleague. And they introduced us to a tool called the Motivation Factor. And we were certified in the use of this tool. And what I liked about it is that it really helps to give a different framework and awareness in terms of who we are, how we operate, and how brain science is linked to a bit of an energy component. So I'm going to walk you through this framework. So the premise of the model is that we all at any given time have a certain level of energy, steady state. So when we're at our norm, we're kind of, we're functioning, at a survival mode of energy. When our needs are met and we find ourselves in a situation, be it at home, work, or play, the energy increases, our level of satisfaction is increasing, our motivation is increasing because we're satisfying that need for fulfillment. As we're in situations in our home life or in our work life, and our needs are met and our talents are being mobilized, now we're really feeling good because we're satisfied emotionally and we're feeling very fulfilled because our need to bring forward things that we're really good at is optimized. And when we're doing things that are in terms of alignment of needs and talents, we're rest assured you're very aligned with what your purpose is and what it is you were meant to do, why you're here, what your unique offering is in the context of your personal life and in your careers. And as things happen, as they do on a daily basis, when you're in situations where you have something to bring to the table but have no opportunity to do that, we get a little demotivated and our morale may come down. And as we are in situations and our needs aren't being met, we're feeling a little threatened. And so you can see that when we come down the pyramid, our level of motivation decreases, and so does our energy. I often equate this pyramid to like a metaphor of a bucket of water. And our goal is to keep the bucket as full as possible. And when it's leaking, we need to do things within our control to try to manage the leak. What I found interesting in terms of the science behind this model is that at any given time, 80% of things that affect our energy and our motivation are extrinsically motivated. And so 80% of the things that bring that needle down are things outside of our control. So at the end of the day, we have 20% of things that we can do something about, and we can choose our actions and our behaviors accordingly. An example would be, I need sunshine to motivate me. There's no sunshine today. What am I going to do about it? I can fret about it and put a lot of negative energy towards something I can't control. There'll be a policy in the workplace, and 100 people will complain about it. And you can't immediately change it, but you can influence it. That's an action you can do to do something about. But you can see, you can identify, I'm sure, walking out of this call, 100 scenarios by which people are putting a lot of energy towards things that isn't really going to matter. And in the analogy of this model, you really need to think about preserving what you can in order to sustain self, your own level of fulfillment and satisfaction, and your level of energy at the highest possible level. From a place of purpose or at a high point of energy, we're in a better position to be creative, to manage stress, to be able to deal with change, and to be able to innovate and create. So at a time of uncertainty like pandemic, when there are many unknowns, and the word pivot has become the middle name these days, we need to be in our most optimized state of thinking, being, to the extent possible. And so I'm going to walk you through an exercise at the end of this presentation to help you. I'm going to walk you through the model so you can see how to use it, and also to choose your actions accordingly so that you can manage levels of motivation and satisfaction. So the model really starts at steady state. So at the bottom, I talked about the bottom of the pyramid, and we have a certain level of energy. There's ways that we can manage how we start to mobilize that energy. We all have our unique set of things that we would call energy boosters. For some, it'll be turning on their music. For some, it'll be playing an instrument or singing. For others, it might involve going for a drive or spending time with a friend or running or going for a bike ride, going for, and so there are a number of things that we would consider energy boosters. And I'm going to have you do an exercise, so give some thought to this. It's important to harness energy boosters at times of stress and times of need, and I'll come back to it. All of us will have our unique set of energy drainers. These are the things that are reflective of stress, or examples might be a situation where there's loss of control or guilty conscience, or you're feeling a lack of progress in terms of your goals or your work, or a dissatisfaction with the state of being. Again, I'm going to bring us back to 80% of things that drain our energy have a lot to do with extrinsic factors, other people's behaviors, a situation, things outside of your control. So let's remember to focus on the 20. All of us have our unique set of basic needs. Yes, there's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but we also have our own personal set of needs. And our needs govern our behavior and the strategies we use to help ensure that our needs get fulfilled. Our ability to understand and recognize what our needs are and ways to respond to our needs is essential to motivation, and it's a good way to help us manage stress. If we feel that our needs are being threatened, it triggers behavior in our actions. And you can see it in the way we change or the behavior of people around us change. We fight to have our needs met. It's essential to motivation. But by increasing our awareness about how we can fulfill needs and how we might be behaving because of the lack of needs being met, the increased awareness is a gift, and it's a key to helping to inform decisions we can make, again, within our control. It's something about, it has a key correlation to level of energy and fulfillment. And again, if we don't pay attention to it, out of sight, out of mind, information's power. We all have unique talents and skills. We're born with these. What I often tell clients is these are things that are with you for your whole life journey. And so at the times of greatest stress and when things feel totally out of your control and you've totally lost your motivation, remember to lean on your strengths, on your unique skills, on your talents. They are what helped you get to where you are today. You've achieved the level of success you are because of what you have in your toolkit. I know many don't like that analogy, but I'll use it for the purpose of this illustration. But when you feel helpless, know that it's there. It may be a talent for speaking. It may be a talent for analysis. It may be a talent for writing. Lean on your talent. When you feel there's nothing to give, start with talent. It's a given. A lot of the discussions I've been having with members of our board, GroYourBiz board, and our review of options in this time of pivot, is looking at what we can do in the interim. How can we find unique ways to maybe generate revenue, leaning on our unique talents and skills? It need not be a permanent part of the business, but something to do while we're waiting to have a business as usual phase of our life, or something to complement our current offerings. But dig deep on talents, they're there. It's untapped potential. It's part of your own value proposition. Use it, build on it, and use it to also build new competencies. Again, when we're mobilizing our talents and meeting our needs, we're aligned with purpose. And our purpose is the core of what drives us, what we focus on. You'll often have heard the other speakers speak to what's your why. This is the why. Why do you do what you do? What makes you tick? I spoke earlier about my foray into the service industry, and Barbara referenced that I do work in financial services and education and healthcare. They're all service industries. There's a reason I picked that path, because I wanted to be of service to others. And I developed a business to be of service to others, to help others help themselves. So what's your why? You should be thinking about a one line that really says, I am X that helps to do X for X. So that, think about, why do you exist? I do X for Y. What population? Meaning Y population. What's your personal strategic direction? What is your personal mission statement? When I work with female executives, when we talk corporate talk, they totally understand when we talk about a strategic plan and the mission, vision, values of a business. Well, the same applies to us as leaders and as entrepreneurs. We all have or should have a personal mission statement. And what is it that we do? What are we endeavoring to do? And what purpose in support of what aspirational goal? And how are we going to do it? We're going to leverage our talents and going to lean on our values. And why are we going to do it? Because we have unique goals that we want to pursue in the next year, 2 years, 3 years. Same principles apply. We just don't think often to apply workplace strategic planning principles to our own personal strategic planning principles. Something to keep in mind. If you have a piece of paper handy, this would be a good time to grab a paper and pen. If not, know that the slides will be made available and that the web will be posted on the Grow Your Biz website. And this is an exercise you could do on your own accord, but I encourage you to start to, it's intended to be a thinking exercise. It's intended to be, use a bit of reflection. And so what I invite you to do is, start at the bottom of the pyramid and list 3 energy boosters. What are 3 things that on any given day, when you know it's present and around you, it's going to help to increase that energy meter? In my case, music, sunshine. I'll find the sunniest room in the house and perch myself there because it's something about it just helps to drive my energy, and it puts me in a better mindset to do my writing and my reading. Once you've done that, beside that, I encourage you to think about 3 energy drainers. What are 3 things without fail that create the classic feeling that we can all relate to? This often results when there are things outside our control that show up in our lives. And this could be lack of progress, lack of follow through. It could be members of your team. It could be members of your family. It could be the weather. It could be anything. So I encourage you to think about drainers, and I'll come back to why and how to use this. Then we'll go up a row and go to needs. And I encourage you to think about what are 2 or 3 things that need to be present in my life? Outside of Maslow's hierarchy, which is personal safety, security, what have you, but what are things that you really need present to help increase your motivation, to help increase your level of satisfaction and fulfillment, and that help fulfill you as an individual? I'll give you a minute to think about that. On the flip side of that row is behaviors we dislike. I encourage you on this one to think about a very unpleasant encounter with a phenotype of an individual. What is it about that individual that really is turning your crank? What is it that creates that rub within you? It could be, for example, in my case, dishonesty. People who show breach of trust. That's important to me. It's aligned with my values. Honesty is a big value of mine. And that would be an example of behavior I dislike. But I encourage you to think about that. I'll give you another minute. We're now going to go to talents. So what are the 2 or 3 things that you know, without doubt, that you're good at? And this is no time to be shy, but these are the things that when played back through the mouths of your clients, through the mouths of your peer group, or your members of your team, or your friends and family, what would they say you're really good at? These are your natural fallbacks. These are your birthrights. These are the things that came with you when you were designed and delivered to join us on this thing called life. And at the top, we arrive at purpose. I do X for X. I do X for Y. And this is one you can play with. I struggled the first time I did this. I had a facilitated exercise where we needed to land on this outside of the context of work. I'm somebody who must have developed hundreds of strategic plans with my workplaces and with leaders. And when it came time to do my own personal strategic aim, it was tough. The case study of self is a tough one. We don't look inside as much as we need to. We're too busy looking outside, being of service to others. So as you reflect on self, I believe that my first crack at this was, I am the inspired catalyst that influences and empowers others. And that pretty much summarized what I did and why I did it. I was inspired because I was able to mobilize my new learnings, and I wanted to share the wealth on how others could follow suit. And my learnings came from personal development and professional development. And while I can't control others' behavior, I like to empower them, and I really like to influence them in a positive way to create positive outcomes and have a positive impact. And if there's anything that comes into my business in any of my 3 divisions, if it doesn't align with that purpose, it doesn't get my attention or time. And so I encourage you to think about your North Star. And this is what defines you. And who you are shows up in all aspects of your life, not just in your business. So going back to the energy analogy and the water bucket analogy, what I like about the water bucket is you can see that as I start to take in things, or I'll use myself as an example, if I start to take in things that are not aligned with my purpose and my raison d'etre, I might be doing it because I have to for a colleague or temporary or something, but it's not really aligned with what I do and why I do it. So my level of fulfillment satisfaction notionally comes down. If I find myself in situations, and it could be hypothetically, just for the purpose of illustration, I'm in a group, I may be a member of a board, not a GroYourBiz board, I'm always in a board where I'm not being utilized. I don't have an opportunity to use my talent, which might be communication. If I'm muted in a group, I'm really not feeling very happy. If I have something to offer and there's no opportunity to give feedback and I cannot provide value and not feel like I'm deriving value from a situation, my energy starts to come down. It's an untapped potential. That talent does not have an ability to be brought to bear. If we couple that with, if I'm in a situation and I need to be in a place where I have a need for honesty or trust, and I find myself in a group of people who I can't trust or who are very dishonest, you can see where I'm going with this. Energy continues to come down. So as I get down to this energy survival mode, I can further allow it to deplete myself if it's a really awful day weather-wise, and I'm in a place with a lot of distrustful people, I'm in a room full of people who don't want to hear from me, and I'm doing something that's not even aligned with what I want to do. I'm being excessive just for the purpose of illustration. So these are things outside of my control. I come back to the 20% now. So knowing that I can't change a lot of the things in that scenario, through increased awareness of energy boost, things like energy boosters, I know that I can walk away, or I can temporarily take a walk. When break time comes, I'm going to go out and get some sun to get a little bit of that energy back. I may phone a friend and say, hey, Wendy, I need to talk to you, and start to get that energy to rise. But there's things within the 20 that we can do. So it's not all doom and gloom. My level of motivation can be impacted consciously by being aware of what to do with on the things within our control. My needs may not be met in that particular scenario, but when I leave there, I can choose to do something to have my need fulfilled, whatever those needs may be. And if I'm working in a group where a certain talent that I have to bring to bear, the possibility to bring that forward does not exist, I can choose to bring that communication need or talent to a volunteer group or to a charitable organization. So find other aspects in your life where talents can play out to help fulfill the level of motivation. It all doesn't have to be within the context of work. And so I encourage you to think about bringing this model to life and find opportunities to have your needs met in many different contexts, whether it be at home with your family and friends, in professional development opportunities, in the context of your career. There's many places where you can find ways to have your needs met. And every time you do, you're having an opportunity to increase that motivation factor. Now, when your talents are being utilized in the context of, if I'm really good at gardening, I'm invited to do gardening here, there, and everywhere, whatever the example may be. In the more context that you can apply your special talents, you're feeling fulfilled, you're feeling satisfied. And finding ways to do that at times like a pandemic time, where the things we were good at in the context of our business models are not being able to be fully maximized, how else can we get that energy going? We may not be we may not be able to operate in status quo, but there are things we certainly can do. And many of us have started. We saw evidence in this course of the last 2 months of people going for walks. And we know that the whole world is baking because we can't find yeast. But there are many things that we could be doing parallel to our business or complementary to our business and in other aspects of our life to help keep us motivated. And again, from a place of motivation, at a highest level of motivation, we're in a more creative space through which to think about change management opportunities for our lives as we reflect on this time, and also in the context of our business models. From the place of highest motivation and fulfillment at a high level of energy, we'll be in a much better place to create new paths forward at a time when we think there are none, and to continue to innovate and from that place. Yes, on any given day, we will see peaks and variances, but when you use this model strategically, you can lean on the things you can do, and you can also manage the things that, that will drain you. So you can choose to walk away from people or not correspond with people in some contexts, but find ways to manage that energy. If you leave it unattended, the well will run dry, no pun intended. So that's how this model works, and you can see why I'm a fan of it. But again, it's conscious awareness, it's looking in. Ironically, Barbara mentioned I do write case studies for the Ivy School of Business, but doing the case study of yourself and what makes you tick and why, and what your strategic aim is, and what your values are, what your priorities are, what outcomes you want for yourself in 2 to 3 years. This is something we don't do, but I encourage you to do, not just for your business, but for yourself. It'll give you a focus. It'll give you clarity of vision, and it helps you to inform, purposeful decisions that you'll bring into your life to really help increase motivation and morale. This tool is available, and so if you this was the make it yourself walkthrough through the tool, but there is a really deep dive through this tool that certified users can run on you for those of you who are interested. So using this information, I'm hoping that I'm helping to illustrate to you that can really help you to find a bit of your North Star. Through pulling information like this into our awareness and managing things, in the like and dislike, and being more aware of things that align with purpose, you get back into the control of your life journey. And I often refer to coming back into the driver's seat as opposed to the passenger seat or the back seat of your life journey. Again, information's power. I encourage you to think about ways to optimize and find win-win opportunities to bring your best self to your business, revised business coming out of pandemic, to your market, and think broadly about what might be untapped potential, what might be talents that you have not yet incorporated, what are talents that you can deliver in different ways, what are parallel offerings that you might be able to mobilize. Not all people are meant to be our customers, but the ones who are aligned with your interests, your unique offerings and skills will be the ones who are meant to be part of your professional journeys. And so I encourage you to think about, not just your business, but yourselves as leader, and what you as your leader bring to your business, and what it is uniquely that you bring as an offering to the market. And how do you continue to harness your unique skill set and your unique offerings to continue to pivot and be resilient to adaptive changes in the market. And so that, my dear colleagues, is really a framework for thinking based on a little bit of brain science, but also through a bit of tried and tested. I can say that through increasing my own awareness of, the deeper dive on Vanya, the deeper dive on self, it's given me a lot more information at my disposal. It's helped me make more meaningful choices. It's helped me to feel more validated in terms of good use of my time, energy, money, and also created a great ROI in terms of feedback that I get from those who I work with, be they emerging leaders, be they students who are just starting to innovate their concepts as they begin their entrepreneurship journey, be they women entrepreneurs such as yourselves who may be thinking about phase 2 of their business, a whole new business, maybe slowing down their business as a result of this gift of a silver lining in this pandemic. But as we're making pivots and changes in thought, look in first before going out, and take the time you need, and that's warranted, to reflect before expending valuable time and energy on things just because. Yes, there's survival mode, but sometimes we need to do things parallel to the things we do in survival mode that may not be as motivating and fulfilling. Seek ways to get that fulfillment through conscious awareness and conscious choices. And on that point, I will pause and ask if there are any questions, and if there's anything anybody wanted me to go back over. But I acknowledge that was a lot of information, but through it, I hope you feel there was a silver thread a silver lining and something that you can apply. And my hope is that it helped to catalyze some new awareness for all of you, and that, or maybe helps to reinforce some of the decisions you're making and why you're making those decisions. So I'll pause there and open it up to the participants.
Can we just ask a question?
Yeah.
Certainly.
So
Okay.
how do we get back to the big screen, Alicia? Like, how do I get back to gallery screen where I see it?
Right there.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Okay, great. Go ahead, Marg.
So Vanya, one of the things I know at the end of the day, I'm tired, but I'm not quite sure what drains me. Like, how would you be able to really analyze? I mean, obviously working long hours can drain you, depending on what you eat can drain you, but could you share some of what drains you? You shared about music is an enhancer and working through a problem for me is encouraging. I know what motivates me, but I don't necessarily know what drains me.
Good question, Marg. And I like to use the analogy of water a lot. I don't know why, but I'm like water, and water needs to keep flowing. And when my water gets stuck, it doesn't serve me well. And so through frameworks like this, it helps me quickly pivot to what's in my control, what's out of my control. I can't control that I hit this wall, but I can control an opportunity to go further. So there could be projects, for example, that I know, and I have, in the way my business operates, I have multiple projects at any given time, and I'm dependent on information from others, and it could be internal or external. And when I'm behind and I start to fall behind, I don't like it. It just, it's not my mode of operation. I worry about brand management. I hate to so that's one thing. Or having to repeat myself too many times on something really is not a good use of my time, but I can feel the drain happen. So while I can't control the speed within which somebody operates, what I can do is help to give them the skills to do better the next time. What I can do is communicate the impact on me when that happens. If I choose to do nothing, guess what? Every time I hit that wall, I'm going to go flat. What I can choose to do is complain over there and nothing will change, or I can choose to be constructive. And so what I do is probably volunteer a lot of information, but then I can make choices from that place. Because if I've told somebody 2 or 3 times that my expectation is X and they keep giving me Y, I can choose to continue to do business or choose not to do business. I can choose to keep them on my team. I can choose not to keep them on my team, but I'm always in choice. And I often find teammates, clients, friends, a lot of that drain comes from needs not being met and being aware of, I have a need for, honoring my commitments. I have a need to ensure accountability. I have a need to ensure my reputation. So I have needs to be, I have a standard to meet, and it's my own personal standard. And when that comes down, I have to look at what's come into the way. And so it's a lot of analysis. If we pause and think about what's here right now, and what's the repeated theme? If we haven't, in business, as as a very successful businesswoman, Marg, you know that data is only data until we manipulate it. Well, if we collect this data about ourselves and really look at what's the trend here, every time I do X, I seem to be flat. What is it about X? Is it the person, or do I dig deeper? It's not the person, it's the dishonest person, or it's the speed of the person, or it's the variability of, quality of the person. Go deeper. And so in that below the surface lies information which comes back to maybe a need not met, a value being compromised, or a talent you have not coming to fruition. So those would be ways to bring that model to life.
No, thank you, Vanya. No, that helps. Thank you very much.
Good question.
I have a question as well, sorry, about what am I good at? And that whole area of talent, what I find is that people do not like to, it's difficult for people to say good things about themselves. And so often I find that exercise, I would encourage, this is something I do with my Grow Your Biz at Christmas time. I get a little box and I ask, I do how many members there? And I want them to say something positive about that person. So sometimes I think it helps to get someone else to start doing the list on you. what, I observed you today, Vanya, and I wrote down a couple of other things. I went, oh, wow, I love this part about Vanya. So it's just one of those things that might help you. It's, the same thing about what's the why. I often will ask, what's your story? Tell me more about your story. And sometimes I don't know about people until I really listen in depth. And so and if you could record that and share it back to them, it helps them to see their X and their Y. Just, I think that it's like, I want to know what other people observe, because you may get a different sense of yourself.
You bring up a really wonderful point, Barbara, because I think what I often find, people don't like talking about themselves in the context of an interview. They don't like bragging, period. And when you come into the sphere of women leaders, we're even worse. And so, things like 360s, in the context of organizations, I've always been a fan of 360s. It's really important to hear about, what our team thinks about us, what our boss thinks about us, what our colleagues think about us, good, bad, and ugly. When I ran nursing homes, I had resident councils and family councils. My staff hated them. And they said, oh, do we have to have them monthly? They're going to tell us how much they hate the potatoes, and they're going to complain about the staffing. And I said, we can't fix what we don't know. And information's power. We need to thank them for the complaints, because if they don't bring the complaints to our awareness, we'll never have an opportunity to fix them. When I do strategic planning for clients, I have a client now that I'm working with. They want to do a very narrow engagement and have me talk just with their staff. And I said, how do you know you're doing a great job? I said, I don't want to hear from your staff. I want to hear from your funder. I want to hear from your end user. I need to hear from your competitor. You're only as good as what you define as good. But the more voices and the more playback, to your point, Barbara, the more sources of information we get about us as a leader or us as a business, the richer we'll be. And sometimes it's hard to take. I work with clients who have I often get referred by CEOs to work with clients on the executive leadership front for people who aren't, have communications, challenges. They hear but don't listen, or they might not be very, good as a team. They're really good at managing up but not managing down. Somebody needs to play that back. And that information really makes us richer. So you're right. Ask people for feedback formally and informally. And with that information, once you have it, using it, application of knowledge, as the researcher would say, it's not enough to have it in your back pocket. Use it when you're stuck to get unstuck. Use it to help empower others to do what you're doing that's been successful. But to keep it as your best kept secret is a lost opportunity.
Other open to questions? Susie?
Vanya, that was great. I love the framework. I'm curious because you mentioned it took you a while to get to the purpose, which is, I find, the hardest thing for me as well. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, through your trials, did you use the rest of the framework to get to the purpose, or was it more that the rest of the framework and reinforce the purpose? Like what was your process to get to purpose?
It was a couple of different things. So part of it was, tools. So I will say that I use a tool of strategic planning. So I do planning. I do that, a bit for a living. And we've all, in some way, we all do new business development. I'm going to set up a shop to do X. And so we all have a mission. And our vision is we want to be the best X, or we want to do, there's an aspirational part of why we all have a business. I say, put yourself into that mix and say, what is it that I want to do? Like, why did I pick X? Because I like this and I want to do that. It's like pausing on, why did I pick marketing, or why did I pick retail, or why did I pick education? Because I wanted to help students. Like figure out your why. Pick any aspect of your life, or go back and look at all the different aspects of your life and say, why did those type of jobs interest me? What is it about? What's the draw to that industry? What's the draw to that kind of business? Something might have taken you there, and maybe it was a referral, but you stayed. You were in choice. You stayed. So it's do a bit of retrospective analysis, and part of that out popped, a bit of the service industry piece for me. And when I got to my 20,000 foot view of the system, and I was so far away from patients, I said, wait a minute, helping people is why I joined healthcare. I can't see people anymore. Yes, I'm funding millions of people, but I can't see the people. And I came back to my why. I want to help people. And through this pandemic, I've been, I chose to be of service to people because it's what resonates with me. And so, so then when you get to what it is you've done, doesn't mean you need to be on that path forever. I challenged my path when I was, in my last job, pre-starting my business. And before I made the decision to be of choice, I chose a path that was aligned with my motivators. And so I did a bit of that reflection. I did a number of tools. I mean, this tool I came across that I referenced, I'm a believer in it. The tool produced things like, a word cloud with a lot of words that told me about Vanya. And I said, this is me. And it sort of validated my thinking, but I had already done some of the homework. And so, this, for example, said entrepreneurial, catalyze, impact, initiator, educator. I said, oh my God, that validated my path. And, the tool also gave me, a bit of a word cloud that talked about my needs. Yeah, I have a need to attain. I have a need to inspire. I have a need to motivate. But we all have those intrinsic. So for me, the tool validated it, but I had done a little bit of a deeper dive because I was making a big leap of faith and in deciding after a corporate career to start my own business. And so this was information that I sought to validate, just like we do our due diligence in business. It was to do my due diligence. So that's why I forced the hard questions, because it was a key milestone for me and I wanted to mitigate risk.
Vanya, did you develop the tool by yourself?
Oh no, this is so the company that trained us is called Motivation Factor on this tool, and they certify coaches around the world. It's up to
Right.
I'm one of the certified coaches, and there is a book called The Motivated Brain that they've put out. It's a great read. It helps really understand the art and science of why we behave as we behave, and the tool is called Motivation Factor. So there is a framework based on the research done in Denmark by Helle, I'm not going to, Bundgaard. So she came and taught our class when I was at Ivy, and the second she introduced the tool, I soaked it up. And Victoria and I had the benefit of being early adopters of the tool in Canada. They're certified users around the world. But I saw the applicability and it clicked with me, and I wanted to be able to, and when I do public speaking, I do a dry run through the framework, back of the envelope, kind of like I did with you today, a bit of a triangle, because it's a tool to enable reflection. If you want more, there's more available, but at least giving you that framework to think and to be able to say, okay, I left there really flat. What went on in there, and what's the key of my learning? And so usually, if you're low, your values are compromised, your needs weren't met, your talents weren't utilized, something in that mix was at play. And so there'll always be things outside of our control, but then how do we get back to, well, I can't change that policy, but I can go for a walk. I can't change the weather, but I can put on the music. And so it's a matter of how do we meet, because then when you bring yourself back up to that energy meter, then from that place, you're in a better space to survive, think, be, just in a better vibration mode for those who kind of are in that school of thought.
So if someone wants to really take a look at their own framework for thinking, which is, again, and I agree with Susie, it's a great expression and it makes it so meaningful, and they want it more of going through the process, is it fair to say that they could contact you and or Victoria? Because
Correct.
That's right. So I want more of that motivational factor. I want someone to help me go through that. Do you offer, is it 1 hour consultation? Like, what's the range? Sorry, I'm just going to be practical here.
Yes, no, typically, it's a good question. So typically what would happen is anybody who's interested in the tool, and there's all kinds of assessment tools that are used, but in this particular case, I would send you a link to the tool you do on your own. And there's a cost of administering the tool because it's licensed, it belongs to the company. And so I just administer the license. So I'm kind of the distribution channel. So there's a fee associated with the license use. And then it's an hour. It's typically an hour to really walk you through the findings and how to use it, and really to help you unpack a really rich report. And so, I think that it's about a 15-page report that I use all the time. And I have clients who put these in framework, I'm not sure, where's my camera? There's clients that I have who have framed their word clouds. And so you can see, it's a nice little, collection of keywords, and the things that are in bold, when we go through the questionnaire, there's 45,000 words in their database based on evidence that they've put into the database. Every time I answer something a certain way, it'll ping that word. And the more times I answered something that link to that word, which is why that certain words are bigger on the word cloud than smaller. But you'll step outside of it and there's a theme that emerges. And I can tell you that I have such joy when I use it with my clients, because it brings them awareness about themselves, or validates. It either reinforces what's missing for them, or it's like, oh, that's so me. Or in many cases, it triggers a career change. And, you know, I just worked on it with a client who education was all over, and she was considering leaving her job to become a teacher. And I said, there it is. Like, here it is. What are you waiting for? It's there. And the other wonderful thing that this tool does, again, is I'm validating through the tool. My objective was really to harness the motivation part of it, but to give you proof in the pudding. It gives you a nice little toolkit that really tells you, you know, your total level of motivation today. Like, you know, and so what's your motivation, you know, across all domains? How capable are you of identifying what motivates you and how to use it to your benefit? And many of my clients are very low. Like the people who I'm working with who are really at a burn rate or not, or ready to leave, it's usually those people is because they're lacking either motivation in the context of their job, or lacking awareness that they can impact their motivation within the context of their job and their current circumstances. And then there's an intrinsic motivation piece, which helps you to pull out what's in you at your disposal. And there's one that's linked to strategic connection. How well are your talents and needs being, how well are they aligned with the strategic aims of the company? And sometimes there's a disconnect. Sometimes what you have to bear, there's nowhere to give it in that company. And so that may confirm it's time for you to make choices, either put up and satisfy those needs elsewhere, or just stay there and really know that your level of, you know, fulfillment, satisfaction will remain low. And, but we're always in choice. And if we don't focus, we don't know. And if we don't know, we can't act. And if we can't act, we can't, you know, realize a behavior.
Thank you,
So,
Is any other questions from the group? Michelle, Linda, Trista, Lena?
Hi.
Lena, go ahead.
Hi, Vanya. Hi, everyone. My name is Lena Duke. I'm a social media strategist. I also went with Vanya to Ivy Business School. I actually spoke at one of your
GroYourBiz meeting.
Yes. Well, I meant events. And thanks, Vanya, for the kind invitation to join the webinar today. This was amazing. You make me want to drop everything and just do a dive on Lena. I want to do more of, really got me motivated to dig deeper. But I'm also curious about what we can do to motivate others. I recently heard Adam Grant, I believe he's with Harvard. He was saying that when you are working, because now we're all working remotely, he said, when you know that that the team is working at the same hours that you are working, somehow you are actually more productive, because you know people are online. So if you want to reach out to them, they're there. So you become more creative and more productive, and you feed off that energy online. Just curious, what is the tip that you swear by for motivating others, especially today when we have to work remotely?
I take the time to understand. I think I go back to Ivy Business School, and one of the first things I took away was know your client. And I really need to put myself in the eyes of the client, and I really need to understand what is it what's really important to Barbara, what makes Barbara tick, or what is it that really matters to Barbara today. And so put myself in the lens of the client, and also identify what they're good at to help empower them to use what they're good at. Maybe play back and coach Vanya, kind of play back and reinforce a strength that they're not thinking about leveraging. Acknowledge a strength to help motivate them, because as I'm helping others vibrate, they'll be better to others. And so it's how do I bring others along? And also maybe to give them an opportunity to use their talents or skills in a way that they may not have been challenged to do so. And so, giving people a personal challenge is a big part of what I like to do, kind of help them, and I'll give them an accountability. And so it links to kind of the Grow Your Biz model. And a big part of the magic, I often say, Barbara, the Grow Your Biz model is the action of accountability. And so if I say, do you accept this challenge, Lena? And you'll say, yes, I do. And, I challenge you to reach out to 3 friends and repeat this discussion. Mm-hmm. How will I know it's done? Will you email me? And so encouraging the accountability really holds your feet to the fire, and then you're up for the challenge. Now you're vibrating here, pass it on, pass it on, pass it on. So I kind of try to, again, back to my purpose statement, empower and influence others. And by doing that, then I'm better for it. I leave some calls even more excited than my clients, and because I know that I've made a positive impact. And hi, Tristan. Oh, she's giving me a thumbs up. But really, that's a big part of why I do what I do. But I encourage you to kind of embrace it from that viewpoint. And it's a really easy way. It could be as simple as, even with our children, I would empower them at a young age. So, find what they're good at and let people thrive and get out of their way.
Great advice as always. Thank you.
Lena, thank you for mentioning Adam Grant, because I actually saw some similarities here. His book Originals, if you haven't read it, read it. It's not a new book, but it's one of the best, and it really is a motivational tool. It's an energy booster for many people. Vanya, thank you so much. And just to remind everyone, we do have Lena, I'm looking at you and others that I don't know who Michelle Lee is, but we do have the free trial advisory board, 1 hour, and Vanya will be doing one on June. We'll be offering one on 1 hour. This is for potential members, and anybody can refer. And if you refer a friend and they become a member of Grow Your Biz, you will get $100. And so it's a refer and win $100. But it is really important that if you can, I believe the 2 dates are June the 8th and what's the other one? June 8th and June 23rd, sorry. Alicia, you wrote them down and I just lost my notebook.
So we have June 23rd from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and June 23rd from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern.
Right, and we will put that on social media, we'll send it out. And I thought your session was fabulous, Vanya. I can't thank you enough. It's certainly for all of us here. It's about change management opportunities. And I think the first part for me is conscious awareness. And the exercise is great. The motivational factor is great. And I hope that all of you take the time to do your own personal hierarchy of motivation. I can't think of a better thing to do while you're at home, working away at the desk. So thank you all. This will be, Alicia will be asking for feedback, and please take the time to write some things about the session. We can pass it on. We can use it as a testimonial. Trista, you're very lucky to have Vanya as your chair. I don't know who else is up. And of course, Victoria runs Toronto 4. We're building that one. So we've got lots of opportunities for physical chairs, virtual boards, and connections with global. So there you go. Thank you all for participating. And thank you again, Vanya, for leading us through a very important exercise. Energy booster, here we go.
Wonderful. And Victoria has reminded me that the tool is also good for teams. So as people think about returning to work, it's another thing about how much you've used it on one, how do you bring it to many? So think big when it comes to motivation. And thank you kindly for the opportunity, and also to all of you for taking time to invest in yourselves today. Now apply that learning and do great things.
And I just want to also give a plug for our wonderful, I just want to make sure that BMO is our founding and developing partner for Grow Your Biz. And they are offering an incredible BMO webinar series. The first one is this week, May 14th. So there's a whole series of topics, and one that Marg is doing on May the 14th on financial.
May 19th, I'm doing one.
Sorry, I said 14th, May 19th. Michelle Bailey, one on resilience is over, and I'm doing one on June the 2nd. On the power of relationship marketing. And I also am a certified coach in the counseling psychology department and help develop a tool called the personal style indicator. And that will be offered complimentary to anyone who attends the webinar. So you have to be on it. It won't be given to you after. It's an online tool, so similar to yours. So mine is June the 2nd, yours is May 19th. But we sent, maybe Alicia, you can send that information out again. The BMO webinar series, we're all part of trying to do great sessions for BMO and offering it to as many. I think there's about, there's about 6 of them, isn't there, Marg? Six different sessions.
Yes.
Yeah. So all great. Thank you again. Have a great week, everyone. Oh, Linda, go ahead. Linda, go ahead.
Question for you, Barbara. What was the name of the book you said? Originals?
Originals. Yeah. By Adam Grant. And it's got great reviews from all over the world. I mean, it's just it is a really for me, it's about all the people that, all the names that you know, from Mark Cuban to all the Elon Musk, and how they dealt with their failures and what motivated them to be successful. Rena, you probably have read it, correct? But it's a good book.
Thank you.
Okay.
Add it to the list. Take
Bye.
care. Be well, everyone.
Thank you for this.
Thank you. Thank you
Bye.
all.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.